Am I the a-hole for refusing to wake up my husband when my parents visited and kicking them out when they insisted? I will keep the details as minimal as possible. My husband and I have been married for 5 years now, and we are both 29 years old. For the last 3 weeks, due to a complete screw-up in a department at the company my husband works for, it has been all hands on deck for my husband and his team to resolve the issues. My husband has been working 18-hour days, and on some days, not even coming home, working throughout the entire night and into the next day. I don't know much about the issues exactly, but what I do know is that if they do not resolve them, it will result in a $50 million loss for the company. The issues are not the fault of my husband or anyone on his team, but they are the ones who have to fix them. I can see the exhaustion in my husband's face when he comes in at 2 or 3 in the morning when I happen to be awake and leaves again at 7. I don't know how he's doing it or how he keeps going, but I try my best to keep as much as possible off his plate at home until he can get the issues resolved. Before this, he has been nothing but supportive and helpful around the house. When he comes home, he eats, showers, and goes straight to bed. I have found him some nights literally sleeping at the table while he was trying to eat when I went down to check on him because he wasn't in bed yet, or passed out at the foot of the bed with a shower running and still in his work clothes. 2 nights ago, he got home around midnight, which is late but earlier than usual, and I thought something bad had happened because he looked like a ghost. But through his exhaustion, he gave me this massive smile and said they did it, and everything was done. He told me the boss gave them each a couple of days off, and he only needs to be back in the office next week Tuesday. He ate dinner, took a shower, and got into bed. I got up the next morning around 9 and made breakfast. I thought about waking up my husband, but decided not to and let him sleep. Around 12, my parents visited me. I normally work from home, and they do visit from time to time, especially since I'm 6 months pregnant. I greeted them and we sat down and had coffee. Around 30 minutes into their visit, they asked where my husband was because they saw his truck in the driveway. I told them he was still sleeping. My mother gave me a look and said, "It's unacceptable for my husband to still be sleeping past 12, especially with a pregnant wife, and that I should wake him up." I told them no and to leave it, and then I explained the full situation of what happened over the last 3 weeks. They didn't budge and insisted I wake my husband up. Apparently, it's not right for him to sleep in with a pregnant wife. It went as far as my mother standing up and saying that if I would not do it, then she would go and wake him up. I stood up and blocked my mother from going up the stairs and told my parents that if they find it so wrong for my husband to get proper sleep after 3 weeks of barely any rest, they should leave our house because I will not, and I refuse to let them wake him up. I told them I would let my husband sleep until he wakes up himself. I will not disturb him, and I will not allow anyone else to disturb him. They asked if I was kicking them out, and I said yes. If they can't respect my request to leave my husband alone and let him sleep, they are no longer welcome. Their whole visit lasted around an hour. Around 3 p.m., I got bombarded with texts from other family members berating me for kicking my parents out of our house, even my sister and brother, telling me I'm the a-hole for doing it. They said my parents were just trying to help. Even after I explained the situation, some family members are still on my parents' side, saying I overreacted by kicking them out because they were only looking out for my safety, seeing as I'm pregnant. Edit. Unfortunately, I have a family that is somewhat close and loves to talk. Secrets don't stay secret in this family for long, especially with my aunts and cousins who can't keep anything to themselves. As soon as they know something, everyone else has to know it too. A bit of extra information I see keeps getting asked. This is my first child. She will also be the first grandchild and the first child born into the family in the last 20 years. Now for the top comments. Someone give this lady a trophy for being an awesome spouse. Not the a-hole. This is called being a supportive spouse. I'm here for it. Exactly. This is literally what partnership in a relationship looks like. Your husband is lucky to have you, not the a-hole in any way. Don't forget she's lucky to have him too. He's busting his butt working 18-hour days for his wife and future child. Did it without complaints. All in cleaning up someone else's mistake that he and his team weren't responsible for. That's pretty freaking solid in my book. Trying to help with what? Your husband sleeping and you minding your own business working from home? I would be calling everyone on group call and giving them a piece of my mind. I don't tolerate disrespect like that. It's your home. They came in giving unsolicited opinions, and your relatives would be getting it too for sticking their beaks where they don't belong. You're pregnant, not terminally ill. That was my point as well. It's not like the pregnancy is keeping me from not being able to do anything. Everything is going great with the pregnancy, except feeling like a ball. Other than that, I'm fine. You did the right thing sticking up for your husband. Is this a cultural thing where your parents and family can make demands like this? No, not at all. They didn't have an issue when my husband left for about a week, 2 months back for work or anything. I don't know where any of this suddenly came from. Next story. Am I the a-hole for backing my sister-in-law up and kicking my wife's friend out of the house for holding my niece? My wife and I have been married for 3 years, and my wife, my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, and I all live together. She has 2 kids, a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old. My wife and I help her, mostly my wife, since she's at home most of the time. But her friend has been a pain for us. I don't like her. She lives near us and has been friends with my wife for a year. She comes over almost every other day and stays for hours. She's senseless, rude, and talks loudly. We have to remind her almost every time to wash her hands before touching the children. And the worst part? She sometimes shows up drunk. She came over 2 days ago and tried to hold my 5-month-old niece without washing her hands, and on top of that, she was drunk. My sister-in-law got angry and asked her to get out of our house. She said she was sorry and went to wash her hands, but my sister-in-law grabbed her hand and asked her to leave. I had enough of her as well, so I joined in and asked her to leave. She was very angry but didn't say anything and left. Later that night, when I was using my wife's phone, I saw that the friend had texted my wife. She said we were rude and shouldn't have insulted her, and then accused me and my sister-in-law of something going on. When I saw the text, I asked my wife if she still wanted to be friends with this woman after what she said. My wife said she didn't know what I was talking about, so I showed her the message. After reading it, my wife said she never expected her friend to say something like that, and that she was cutting off the friendship. I said it was necessary, because if she didn't cut her off, I would have divorced her. My wife got angry at me for bringing up divorce, and hasn't talked to me since, after yelling at me for half an hour. My sister-in-law says I was wrong for mentioning divorce when it was her friend's fault, not my wife's. Am I the a-hole? Never use the D word unless you want one. Seriously, why the heck would OP even bring up divorce when wife was already agreeing with him? It would be like me telling my husband I don't want our son playing football because it's too dangerous. Husband says I completely agree. And I come back with, well, you better agree or I would divorce you over it. Just straight up alienating your spouse for no reason whatsoever. You're the a-hole. She was dropping the friend. Why did you create drama? Yup, and don't say divorce unless you mean it. There sounds like there is something between you and sister-in-law if you divorce your wife over something so small. Seems like you're prioritizing sister-in-law over wife a bit. This post reeks of missing reasons. I feel like OP will say in the comments his wife can't have kids, so he sees himself as the kid's dad, or just straight up doesn't like his wife. Small? You are crazy, bro. It's a grave accusation. And yes, I'm currently prioritizing my sister-in-law over my wife because she's recovering from childbirth. And I am not a dad to my nephew or my niece. I'm their uncle. Alright, I guess I am wrong for throwing divorce on her face, but I was angry. I was so damn angry. Because not only she's accusing me of infidelity, she's accusing our family as a whole like we practice infidelity in our own family. If something like this were to happen to you, wouldn't you get angry? And why the heck is my wife was friends with someone like her anyway? But I was angry. I was so damn angry. Yeah, we got that. Are you an actual adult? Get it together, man, and go apologize to your wife. And why the heck is my wife was friends with someone like her anyway? She's not anymore. Good freaking lord, dude. You have a lot of work to do to manage your anger in order to grow into an actual man versus whatever it is you are right now. You're still not over this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for showing up to my boyfriend's surprise birthday party, even though his girl best friend didn't invite me? I, 27 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 28 male, for about a year. Everything's been good overall, except there's always been this one weird dynamic. His extremely close girl best friend, Tina. They've known each other forever and claim it's totally platonic. I've always tried to be cool about it, made an effort, invited her out, etc. Anyway, his birthday was last weekend. I had no idea anything was happening until his roommate texted me asking if I was coming to a certain bar that night. I had no clue what he was talking about, and he was shocked I didn't know it was a surprise party that Tina had planned. So I show up, alone obviously, and Tina looks genuinely surprised to see me. She literally said, "Oh, I didn't know roommate told you." No apology, no oops, nothing. I stayed, mostly to avoid drama on my boyfriend's birthday, but the whole thing was awkward. I sat off to the side with some random cousin, while Tina gave a whole speech about how no one understands him like she does. Cool. Later I brought it up to my boyfriend and he said it wasn't that deep and that maybe she just assumed he had told me. But it's his surprise party. Wouldn't you assume your girlfriend should be there? Now I'm wondering if I should have just left the second I found out I wasn't actually invited. I feel weirdly guilty, but also humiliated. Am I the a-hole for showing up and making it known I wasn't originally included? Or was that fair game since, I'm literally his girlfriend? Now for the top comments. No girl, something seems really fishy about her, and your boyfriend being so nonchalant about it is also really weird. You're his girlfriend, weren't invited to a surprise party by the person organizing it. It's definitely on purpose, and the way she is acting, the whole "I'm the only one who understands him" is kinda all really weird. I'm just getting some bad vibes. I think more discussion needs to be had with you and your boyfriend, but I'd definitely keep an eye on her cause she seems really off to me. This whole situation is weird. It's clear she intended for you not to be there at your own boyfriend's birthday party. You are not the a-hole girl. She definitely is though, and I'd mention that more to your boyfriend and about how she was acting. Especially if the behavior does concern you, you should make your feelings heard. Agreed. Something fishy is definitely going on there. Your boyfriend should have your back and should have understood how it was wrong of her not to invite you. There's nothing fishy about it. Tina is a witch and needs to grow up. In fact, so does the boyfriend. Yes, but boyfriend isn't stopping it, probably because he likes this kind of attention. Either way, OP isn't the a-hole, but the other two? Just yuck. He's gaslighting and disrespecting you. Let Tina keep him. Break up with him. Tell him it's not that deep. Not the a-hole. Right? That "it's not that deep" line rubbed me the wrong way too. Like, I'm your girlfriend. How am I the only one who didn't know? It feels dismissive, and honestly, the more I replay it all in my head, the more off it feels. Might be time to rethink things for real. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to bring my boyfriend to family events until he learns how to read the room? So, I, 26 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 28 male, for almost a year. He's kind, smart, funny, and I do love him. But there's one issue that's becoming kind of exhausting. He has no idea how to read a room, like zero social awareness sometimes. The first time I really noticed it was at my cousin's engagement party. Everyone was dressed semi-formal, soft music, people mingling, pretty chill vibe. He showed up, late by the way, blasting music from his car. Came in wearing a graphic tee that said something wildly inappropriate. I won't repeat it here, but it was something you'd see on a gag gift. And proceeded to dominate every conversation with unrelated jokes and stories. My dad straight up asked me, "Is he okay?" I tried to let it slide, but it keeps happening. At my sister's birthday dinner, he loudly told a story about someone crapping their pants in a Target while we were waiting for dessert. At a family barbecue, he kept pushing my uncle to just admit he used to do drugs in the 80s. No matter how many subtle signals I give, like tapping his leg under the table, changing the subject, or even texting him to tone it down, he either doesn't pick up on it or brushes it off. I've tried to gently talk to him about it. His response is always something like, "That's just who I am," or "Your family's too uptight." But I don't think asking someone not to bring up bodily functions over dinner is being uptight. So now I've started declining invites to family stuff unless I go alone. My mom has asked a few times why he's not coming anymore, and I just say he's busy. But the truth is, I'm embarrassed and kind of tired of feeling like I'm babysitting him in social situations. He recently got annoyed and said I'm ashamed of him, and that it's hurtful I don't bring him around. I told him I'm not ashamed of him, but I am uncomfortable with how he acts around my family. Now he's being cold and passive-aggressive. So, am I the a-hole for not bringing my boyfriend to family events until he learns some basic social awareness? I guarantee he can read the room in court. I guarantee he can read the room in church. I guarantee he can read the room at work. I guarantee he can read the room in front of the elderly on the street. He feels insecure, and he is acting like a funny guy who can't read the room because he's immature and doesn't know how to manage his feelings of inadequacy. If you want to spend your precious 20s trying to fix him, fine, but you need to know the truth. He's doing this for reasons, not because he's unaware. Ladies, stop trying to fix men. I promise you, this dude isn't great in your relationship either. He's not this great guy you want us all to believe, and you might also think he is. He's a douche, and if you really step back and look at your relationship, you will see him for what he is, not worth your time. He considers his behavior a part of his personality, which means that you're not going to get him to change. Do you really want a man-child that embarrasses you for the rest of your life? If he cared about your feelings, then he would change his actions instead of doubling down. You have to ask yourself if you can live with that forever. Not the a-hole, but you are way too understanding. He considers his feelings more important than yours, and he'd do the same as your +1 at your work events, and to your children. He's acting like a child. Do you enjoy being his mama? Oh God, yes. Can you imagine how he will act towards any children he might have? Shudder. He will purposely embarrass his kids in front of others, and they will grow up hating him. And if OP marries him and reproduces with him, her kids should hate her too, for knowing this and purposefully subjecting them to him. Am I the a-hole for not lying to my son after he was told his mom cheated on me with his stepdad? When my ex, 30 female, was pregnant with our son, 11 male, she cheated and left me for another guy. She even tried to put him on the birth certificate, which led to DNA testing and a 3-year-long custody battle, during which she and her now husband did everything they could to try and take my son from me. Because of the cheating, the attempts to keep me out of my son's life, and the many lies told even to CPS about me, there is no civil or co-parenting relationship between us. We always sit apart at events for our son. We communicate only through a court-assigned app, and third parties handle custody exchanges. That's just the way it has to be. 2 months ago, my ex's mother, who has a rocky relationship with her, told our son that his mom cheated on me with his stepdad. After hearing this, our son brought it up to his mom and stepdad and told them he wished he never had to speak to them again. He said his stepdad is no longer his stepdad. He's completely pulled away from them. My ex mentioned this via the app, and I spoke to our son when he came home to me. We share 50-50 physical custody, 1 week with me, 1 week with her, on rotation. Anyway, I talked to my son, and he told me his mom and stepdad always act like the stepdad is better than me, and that they'd get annoyed he only called me dad and his stepdad by his first name. Finding out about the cheating made everything worse and made him really mad. He said he never liked his stepdad, which I was already somewhat aware of, and now wished he would just go away. He was upset his mom would cheat and then say all this stuff about his stepdad being a good dad to him. I told him I didn't want him to dislike or hate anyone because of me, but I wouldn't force him to like or love someone either. I asked how he'd feel about talking to someone to help process this, and he said he'd be okay with that. So I got him signed up for therapy. He hasn't started yet. My ex later quizzed our son during her week and then got mad at me for not lying to him or denying the cheating. She told me it wasn't fair to use it against her when I wasn't even the one who told him. Her mom did. She said I shouldn't ruin my relationship with my son over her actions. I got one rather long message from her through the app. Then she confronted me outside my house while our son was with her. She told me that a good father would put his son's best interests above his own hurt. I don't think she's right, but I know I may be too close to this to be objective. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. LOL, did she think you were going to take this to your grave? It would have or should come out eventually, perhaps when he was older. But that's not your fault. You sure as heck shouldn't have lied for her once the cat was out of the bag. Not the a-hole. Yes, although I never would have told him myself, but I never intended to lie if someone else did either. Not the a-hole. You are putting your son's best interest first by getting him a therapist that will help him deal with all the crap she, not you, put him through. OP still have time later to verbally drop something like, not my personal problem that putting my son's interests does not benefit you nor a side piece turned husband in any form and way. Not my fault your mom told our son the truth. Direct your BS and anger at her, not at me. Not the a-hole. They both fooled around for like 12 years. They just now legit suffering now forever consequences. Due son finally finding out from maternal grandma the truth about both his parents and his mom's husband. Not the a-hole. It took 11 years, but they finally caught up with the F around. I agree. She would have thought of the consequences of her actions before she did them. Not the a-hole. And the cheating is secondary. She should really quit while she's ahead. Her son doesn't know that she tried to keep his dad out of his life for 3 years. She should take that as a win. Tell him she wishes she exited the relationship with his dad differently and stop bashing someone he loves. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to allow my stepdaughter to use one of my cars and telling her to get a job and buy one instead? My husband and I have a 5-year-old son together, and he has an 18-year-old female daughter, Sally, from his previous marriage. Sally is an entitled, manipulative young lady who has spent her entire life milking the child of divorce card in order to make her parents feel bad and give her everything she wants. As a result, she is now a lazy adult with poor grades in school, no prospect, no job, and no desire to get a job or do something with her life. Although my husband and her bio mom are both responsible for how she turned out, instead of coming together and working toward helping her do something, they prefer to blame each other and do everything they can to undermine the other. For example, if my husband punishes Sally by not giving her spending money, her mom will immediately throw money at her. If her mom takes her car away as a punishment, my husband will immediately give her his car to use. It's a very strange dynamic they have, and very different from what he has with me. When I asked him why he is so different in terms of parenting my son with me versus Sally with her bio mom, he said I am his wife, and a normal, sane woman he can actually communicate with. Whatever. I feel like they are both wrong, but Sally is not my daughter, and I'm happy I don't have to spend too much time with her. Now that summer break has started, Sally has the most important problem in the world. Her car broke down and she needs one to use this summer to go places, meet her friends, go to parties, etc. Her mom is not willing to give her car because she needs it for work. My husband needs his car to go to work, and neither of them is willing to buy her a new one. So Sally, the genius, found the perfect solution and asked me to give her one of my cars. To be clear, I have 2 cars, a big SUV that was given to me by my employer, and a smaller one that I use when I go into town because it's easier to park. I refused and told her she can't use either of my cars. She insisted and said I don't need 2 cars at the same time, but she needs one to get around. I told her she's free to use public transportation or get a job and buy one herself. Now Sally's going around to my husband's relatives complaining that I am trying to exploit her and send her to work. I had a good laugh about this with my husband's sister, but my mother-in-law claims I could have just refused instead of telling her to get a job. I'm a little confused about what's so bad about telling an adult to get a job. It's not like I sent a 12-year-old to work for her food or anything. Not the a-hole. Hide your keys. Also, make it clear to all that you will call in the police if a car goes missing, and you will tell them who took it. This OP because from what you've described, Sally wouldn't think twice about borrowing one of your cars. And if the SUV is a nicer vehicle, that is what she'll likely take, especially as her friends will all fit. Make it clear to both her and your husband that if either vehicle is ever missing, you will report it stolen to police and will follow through on pressing charges. If you start getting messages from her family members about how you are trying to manipulate her into getting a job, you need to confirm that as clearly as possible. You are trying to make her get a job and will continue to do so as long as you can. You have the opportunity to erase some of the damage done by her two enabling parents. Do not be deterred. The strange thing is that my husband agrees with me. Her mother totally hates me and is teaching her that everything I say is BS. My husband's sister agrees with me, and my mother-in-law babies her because she is her first grandchild. But I feel like no one in this situation is doing her a favor. I'm not trying to manipulate her, but her situation is so different from what I'm used to or how I parent my own child that it's insane. Like, how can it be so horrible to teach an adult responsibility? To want to give her direction in life? I don't know what they expect to do with her, honestly. They can't support her for the rest of her life, and it's sad because she is a capable, healthy adult. Even people with disabilities work and want to do something with their lives, so she has no excuse. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she chose her husband and stepkids over me, and I won't let her come back from that? I, 21 male, need to provide some background to give everyone a full idea of where I'm coming from. My dad was abusive. He was abusive to my mom mostly, but I didn't escape his anger and violence issues either, especially when it became clear that while I was well-built and tall, I was a big softy and not a fighter. He hated that. He wanted a kid who'd knock out other kids' teeth. That was never me. My mom could never leave him though. It took him dying when I was 10, after a massive heart attack, to end his lifetime of terror over us. Mom and I went to therapy separately and together after Dad died. I confessed that I wished she'd left sooner and that I hated feeling unsafe. I told her I needed her more than I needed anyone else. She told me she would never put anyone else in front of me again and that she'd make sure we had a good life. That only lasted until I was 15. Then she met her husband, Rick, who was a single dad of 3, aged 14, 11, and 9 at the time. Rick's oldest daughter, 14 at the time, had massive behavioral issues. She was in and out of psych holds, and the cops were regulars when she was around. Mom went in with her eyes wide open and decided we all needed to be a family. I spoke out against it, and Mom told me Rick needed her, and so did the kids. I told her I would not stay with her if they all moved in together. I told her I would not live with another abusive person. She told me this was different. The girl was a kid, younger than me, and just needed help. Mom called the cops on me when I left without permission, and the cops tried to bring me back. I was 16 by that point. It escalated and they let me stay. Mom tried to push kidnapping charges on my grandparents for keeping me from her and tried to get the courts involved, but I had seen some stuff from Rick's oldest. The day I left, they were at the house, and Rick's oldest daughter had tried to attack me. So, to make it all stop, I called CPS about the incident, and Mom's attempts to get me back were over. She still tried, but CPS stated I should be where I was safe. Rick's younger kids were removed for a few weeks before being placed back with Rick and my mom, who had moved in together at that point. Mom tried to maintain contact with me and tried to make me give it a chance, but I wanted no part of that. She asked me to spend some time with the younger kids so they could have an older sibling to turn to, but I refused to step up. She showed up at my grandparents a few times, but they sent her away, and I muted her number at that point. She and Rick are still together and now married. I was invited to their wedding but didn't go, and I never reached out. But she's made multiple attempts in the last 2 months, and I ignored most of them. It was only when she told me I had a family I was ignoring, and her, who loved and missed me and never wanted anything to come between us. She said she was sorry. She was so sorry and all that stuff. I told her she chose Rick and his kids over me and I won't let her come back from that. I said she made me live with abuse once, and she tried to do it again. I told her I didn't care if she wanted to help Rick and protect his younger kids. It wasn't my job to care. It was her job to protect me, and she failed for a second time. After that, Rick reached out to me and told me I didn't need to be so hard on my mom. That his oldest had problems, but it didn't mean he and the kids were undeserving of love and support. He said I had failed at being as good a person as my mom. I blocked him because he's just a random dude who has no business telling me things like that. My mom tried to get in touch again and apologized again, but I ignored it. The fact she's still apologizing is the only reason I'm here to ask this. But am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She chose your abusive father over you, and herself frankly, and then she chose an abusive step-sibling over you. She didn't put her own child first, and that has consequences. It might be different if the man she decided to date and live with didn't have a daughter with these kinds of issues, because I'm not saying your mother had to remain alone for the rest of her life. But no, she chose a partner that meant you were exposed to an abusive teenager. It doesn't make any difference that it may not be that kid's fault. You already had trauma from previous violence. It was beyond selfish of your mother to put you in that position again, even if it was from a child this time. I'm glad your grandparents had your back. Don't feel guilty for calling CPS. That is what you needed to do to stay in the safety of your grandparents' home. Thank you. CPS was something that they were really angry at me over, but it was the only way I could save myself. No matter what the consequences were for Rick's kids, I needed to be away from that mess. It's extremely telling that CPS legally removed you from the home, though you had already physically left, and placed you with your grandparents. If there had been nothing behind the call but a teen who just didn't like their new blended family, that would never have happened. CPS does not like to remove children from the home, which is why the younger two left for several weeks, and likely only returned after certain conditions had been met to ensure their safety. Hopefully, someone continued to advocate for them, as well as for the oldest, who sounds like she was not getting the help she needed either. From what I know, nothing changed when the kids were sent back to Rick. They carried on as normal and kept expecting me to come and be their human shield. Last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my daughter to pay for her sister's college costs? I have two daughters, 25 and 18. For my oldest daughter, I paid for around half of her total university costs. She took around $30,000 in student loans to pay for the rest. She paid off the loans very aggressively and became debt-free quickly. Due to having to support my parents, we weren't able to save much for our younger daughter and had to use a lot of the money we saved for her in an emergency a year ago. But she still doesn't qualify for financial aid. So she plans to go to community college for the first 2 years, then transfer. We're still not in a great position financially, so what I decided was to ask my oldest daughter. My oldest has a pretty stable job and earns quite a lot in a pretty low cost of living area, so I asked her if she could contribute to some of the funds considering I paid for part of her university, which helped her become debt-free fast. She was originally hesitant at first, but then agreed to cover all the costs for the 2-year community college. This would let me save up to at least pay for some of the fees after she transfers to a state university. I have around $10,000 saved up for her. I hope to bring that number to at least $15,000 to $20,000 so I can pay some of her tuition when she transfers. Now, when my husband found out about this, he got mad and told me it's embarrassing to ask a 25-year-old for money and that we should have either made the youngest take out loans or tried to contribute a bit more. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole for not discussing something like this with your spouse. Her daughter is not obligated to pay her younger sister's bills, only if she wants to. This is really embarrassing. Honestly, I was kind of wondering if they were going to approach it as a loan, like that parents would pay back. Nope. Sounds like overall just asked for the money up front. You're the a-hole. Asking your child to support your other child isn't okay. Your 25-year-old has an uphill battle ahead of her, and you're setting her back even more because of your poor planning. Oh, and your oldest became debt-free faster because she paid off her loans. She doesn't owe you anything. You caused this situation for your youngest. You get a loan and maybe take some financial lessons from your eldest. And FYI, asking her for money to support her sister because you spent all of yours on your parents is just forcing your 25-year-old daughter to support her grandparents with extra steps. Am I the a-hole for ruining my boyfriend's perfect proposal plan because I was hangry? I, 26 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 27 male, for a little over 3 years. He's great. Smart, funny, a decent cook, if you like everything covered in hot sauce, and just a genuinely sweet guy. We've talked about marriage, so it wasn't a surprise that he was going to propose at some point. I just didn't know how or when. So here's what happened. Last week, he told me to get dressed nice but comfy, and that we were going for a surprise evening. First of all, that's already suspicious, because the man once told me surprise food and took me to Taco Bell. But okay, I went along with it. We ended up driving about 45 minutes out of the city to this really pretty nature trail near a lake. Mind you, it's already 6:30 p.m. I hadn't eaten since lunch, and all I had was a granola bar that I shared with our dog earlier. So I'm getting grumpy, and not cute sassy grumpy. Like, why did I leave the house if there's no food here? Kind of grumpy. He wants to go on this long walk to the perfect spot, and I'm like, bro, I love you, but I'm about to chew on this pine cone. I start complaining, not screaming or anything, just saying, I'm seriously starving. Can we go get food first and come back? He's acting weird and insists we go now, or the moment will be gone. I don't get it and say I'm not walking any further without food. He gets quiet, we leave, and end up getting burgers. Later that night, he tells me that he was going to propose there, and I ruined the moment. I feel kinda bad because, yeah, I did complain a lot. But also, he planned a full-on hike during dinner time and didn't bring snacks. Does he not know me? I told him maybe next time, schedule a proposal when I'm not at war with my stomach. He laughed, but I can tell he's still a little disappointed. Now his friends are saying I was self-centered and killed the romance. My friends say if he wanted a perfect moment, he should have fed me first. So, am I the a-hole for ruining my own proposal because I was hangry and needed fries more than a fiancé? Now for the top comments. If he really knew you well enough to want to marry you, he should have at least packed a picnic meal to eat when you got there or on the way. Right? Thank you. I was out there thinking I was the crazy one for not wanting to get engaged on an empty stomach in the middle of a forest. A picnic would have totally saved the day and probably gotten him a yes right then and there lol. A series of unfortunate events. He didn't think about time of day and food and hanger. You couldn't read his mind to be able to predict what plans he had. Your collection of friends are not helping by taking sides, by the way. Yes, exactly this LOL. Like, how was she supposed to know? He really thought vibes is more important than dinner. Lots of pressure being placed on these perfect moments. Everyone is picturing these TikTok vids with professional makeup, perfect lighting, etc., etc. Don't you guys know none of them are spontaneous, real, or even just planned? They are rehearsed. He needs to be realistic. You both need to be forgiving. Good luck. I was on the couch watching my wife on the ground playing with one of our kitties. I got off the couch and crawled over on all fours to her and gave her a deep kiss and said, "You want to get married?" And she burst into happy tears and hugged me so tight I thought I would pass out. That's a perfect moment. I once had an ex tell me that I ruined his proposal plan. We were traveling by train. He was apparently planning to do it at the station. I thought we needed to catch the train. He ended up later telling me after he did propose that he felt like I made him and he never wanted to. The next time I was proposed to by a different man, I made us late because I declined to go in the store we were supposed to and said I wanted to go in a different store instead. He humored me. I was late to my own proposal. We laughed about it. He never accused me of ruining anything or messing with his plans. You can never ruin a surprise by accident, because you can't ruin a surprise. What I mean by that is, if you are genuinely in the dark about something and don't accommodate their surprise plans, it's okay. You can ruin the surprise element, but the moment is still there and the event or plan can still happen. You didn't know he was planning something and then messed it up on purpose. You were hungry and wanted food. Honestly, your boyfriend should know by now that you get hangry if you aren't fed. And his plan wasn't brief, a 45-minute drive followed by a hike at dinner time. Next story. Am I the a-hole for expecting my girlfriend to handle housework since I pay for everything? We've been together for 3 years now. About a year ago, she stopped working completely. I didn't really mind at the time because I make enough to support both of us. I work in tech and my income covers everything we need. I figured it would be fine. I thought if I was working long hours to pay the bills, then she would take care of things at home to keep us balanced. I work 50 to 60 hours a week, sometimes more, and I pay for literally everything: rent, groceries, utilities, her personal shopping, vacations, takeout, anything we do or buy. It all comes from me. Since she's home all day, I assumed she'd handle most of the housework. Things like dishes, laundry, cleaning, cooking, and doing the grocery shopping. But that's not what's happening. At best, the household stuff is split 50-50, and sometimes I feel like I'm still doing more. I'll come home from a long, draining day and have to do dishes or figure out dinner because nothing's been made. When I try to talk about it and ask if she can help out more, she says I'm being controlling and tells me she's not my maid. And it's like, I'm not asking for a maid. I'm asking for a fair partnership. I'm not trying to boss her around. I just want us to both contribute in some way. If the roles were reversed and she was the one working full-time to support us, I'd gladly take care of the home completely. No hesitation. It just feels unfair that I'm carrying everything, financially and emotionally, and she doesn't seem to see that. On top of that, our sex life has basically disappeared. I know relationships go through dry spells, but between the lack of connection and the imbalance at home, I'm starting to feel more like a roommate with a wallet than a boyfriend. Most of her days are spent at the gym, watching shows all day or going out shopping, and it's almost always with my credit card. She's not looking for a job, she's not studying or building toward anything, and she doesn't really talk about plans for the future. I'm starting to feel used, to be honest. I don't want to just explode on her or start a fight, but I've been holding this in for a while and it's eating at me. I'm beginning to think I need to sit her down and say, hey, this setup isn't working for me anymore. I need you to step up and help more, or we need to rethink this whole relationship. Would I be an a-hole if I told her that straight up? Not the a-hole. You have the right to determine if this relationship and behavior is what you want to live with for the rest of your life. It's time to give her the gift of being an adult. You aren't in a healthy romantic relationship. She's a leech. I'm not your maid. Well, I'm not your bank account. Exactly. I'm not your maid, I'm your parasite. Right? Partnership goes both ways. If she's not contributing financially, picking up more at home seems fair. I work in tech and my husband was a stay-at-home husband for a while before our kids came. He kept our place spotless and grocery shopped and cooked. It was great. He did that stuff while I worked, and then whenever I got home we could hang out together or do hobbies or separate activities. Perfectly balanced moment in our life. Now we've got kids, so everything's upside down. But if we had no kids, then heck yes, I'd expect him to do all the household crap. Otherwise, what the heck you doing all day? She can still go to the gym and stuff, and like nobody's ever binged a TV show while folding laundry before. It's honestly not even that hard to maintain a home where two adults live. Come on, you're being used and I think you know it. My husband watches our 3 kids during the day and still gets the dishes and laundry done most of the time before I am off work. I took 2 months off when my son was 6. I did everything around the house, unless my wife felt like helping with something. Got my son to and from school. It was the easiest 2 months of my adult life. Even with a kid, I only had like 2 to 3 hours of work a day at most. Next story. Am I the a-hole for prioritizing law school over my girlfriend's baby fever? My girlfriend Katie, 25, and I, 25 male, have been together for 3 years. She's been bringing up wanting to have a baby lately, saying how some of her friends are already married with kids. I get that, but I've told her clearly that now is not the time. I'm not ready, and we're not in a place financially or mentally to even consider raising a kid. I'm in my 2nd year of law school and fully buried in it. I'm exhausted, broke, and just trying to get through this without completely losing my mind. Yesterday, she told me I'm not doing my due diligence in trying to understand how she feels. But honestly, I don't get what there is to understand. I told her that my point of view is simple. I'm not having a kid while I'm broke, sleep-deprived, and still in school. I said that it's not a personal attack on her. It's just basic logic. She got upset and said it feels like I'm emotionally checked out and just waiting for an excuse to leave. I got frustrated and told her if having a kid ASAP is that important to her, she should find someone who's ready for it, because I'm not going to blow up my future over her baby fever. One of her friends messaged me saying I'm a manipulative a-hole who doesn't care about her. I honestly think they're all being dramatic. I was upfront and honest. I didn't yell or insult her. I just said I'm not going to throw away years of work to play house before I'm ready. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. She shouldn't be pressuring and manipulating you into having a child. If she can't understand that you want to be stable before having a kid, because of how draining it is mentally and financially, I think y'all should break up. No kidding. My daughter was in law school in a different state. She had very little time for anyone. We all knew that being in law school meant her life was on hold until she graduated, and we all accepted it. His girlfriend is being selfish and just thinking about herself and her wants. She needs to decide what's important, being with the right man and waiting until the right time to have a baby, or finding a guy that will give her a baby now. One thing I'll say is, OP wear protection. Have the ones you use hidden in case she accidentally puts a hole in the ones in the nightstand. It's been known to happen. Don't trust that she's on birth control and is actually taking it as scheduled. Not the a-hole, and best of luck with your schooling. It's worth the sacrifices you're making now for your future. Why are she and her friend taking this so lightly? It's basic logic not wanting to have a kid in your situation. There's no way that kid will grow up in a good environment if you're still in school and stressed over it. A kid is not a pet. You're stuck with it for at least 18 years if you're lucky. Once you get a degree, a job, a house, then it would be a good time to commit to raising a kid. In your situation, it's just a disaster waiting to happen, not only for your relationship with her, constantly fighting over personal time, money, etc., but also for a child, who will most likely grow up in an unstable household because he wasn't wanted in the first place. You'll both have resentment for each other if you do that, in my opinion. Is your girlfriend still in school? Nope. She is working as HR at a fairly big company. She goes on and on about having good maternal leave, and that her mom loves to have a grandkid, and she'll have our back. Last story. Am I the a-hole for replying to my boyfriend's baby mama when she texted me? I, 25 female, am dating a 36 male, let's call him John, who has a 5-year-old daughter with a 42 female, let's call her Jane, who lives 5 states away from us. He moved to the state I live in after they broke up. We started dating a year after they broke up, and we've been together for about 10 months. We moved in together a couple of months ago. John broke his phone, so he was using my old iPhone with his SIM card in it, but my iCloud account. He messaged Jane. Nothing weird, he just said good morning. He usually checks in on them every other day, and I'm aware of it and we're good about it. The message actually sent with my iCloud instead of his number. I was at work, and she replied saying, "Who is this?" I was in the middle of my busy shift, and I just assumed it was one of the girls I work with, because I had recently messaged one of them asking for shift coverage. So I just replied saying, "It's me, OP." There was no reply, so I checked again, and noticed the message John had sent on top. Me and Jane have never spoken or met before this text. I replied and said, "Sorry, I think John meant to message you, but it was sent from my iCloud." She replies and says, "Are you his girlfriend? Do you live together?" He told me he doesn't have a girlfriend. I was a bit surprised by the bunch of questions. I didn't want to reply anymore, but I was feeling a little upset that he didn't tell her I existed. So I said yes, and that we live together. Jane replies, "Has he told you he loves you? Have you met his family? How long have you been dating?" So at that point, I'm like, okay, she is weird. Why is she asking me these? The audacity. So I don't reply. Jane messages me again and says, "Because he lives with you, he doesn't want to call his daughter, because he doesn't want me to know he's dating you." I told her it's not a secret that he has a daughter with her, and I've been there when he's called them. But I respect whatever choices he makes for this part of his life, so I don't want to overstep. I just let him be. He'll introduce me whenever he's ready. She replies and says, "I respect that." I don't reply. She messages again, "Does he tell you that he's moving back here?" I replied and said he has only told me he's sad to be so far away and wants to see his daughter grow up. Jane replied, "If you make him happy and respect my daughter, I'm fine with everything." I don't reply. She messages again. He lies to me to make himself look good. That's what he does. I don't reply. Next day, she messages me. Do you know if John got a bus ticket to come back to our state? I don't reply. She messages again a couple of hours later, and suddenly her tone is rude. You can have John. Keep him there and make more babies he doesn't take care of. Good luck. He said you guys were just roommates, not dating. I don't reply. She sends a screenshot of John messaging her saying he misses them and misses her. I don't reply. Through all of this, John and I were open about the messages from her. He tells me, I told you she's crazy. Why did you have to reply to her when you knew I was the one who messaged her? I said I didn't realize it. I was busy at work and assumed it was one of the girls I work with. He's mad. That night, I finally sent her a reply and I said, you're probably hurting right now, and I'm so sorry things are this way. I don't know what you want me to say to these things you're telling me and the screenshot of his messages to you. Sometimes life just doesn't work out the way we want it to. I'm sorry we got to know each other under these circumstances. I'm sure you are a nice person, and I respect you. Side note, I wasn't that upset with the stuff she sent because my boyfriend has been faithful and so supportive of me. I kind of wanted to hear him out first, as I trust his words over hers. The screenshot didn't upset me because I felt it was valid for him to miss them. He was once there, had a family, and now he's far away. I believe he can love me and miss them at the same time. Anyway, I don't know if my last message to her made her furious, but she gave my boyfriend so much grief that he was stressing and got mad at me for getting involved in messaging her. I stated I remained respectful and that he was the one using my phone to message her to begin with. I just replied to the message that was sent to me. John made me feel like an a-hole and said I've ruined his chances to have a connection with his daughter because the baby mama told him they won't answer his calls and that they'll call him when they want to. It made me so sad for him, but I don't know, was I the a-hole? He's playing both of you. Yep, these men always play the she's crazy card. I guarantee he's telling his baby mama the same thing about OP. He wants to watch his daughter grow up, yet moved 5 states away from her. Why do you think he would treat you and your potential future family together any better than he treated his last one? Exactly. His actions don't match his words. He's playing the sad sausage to manipulate both of you. Who's paying the bills here? Guessing OP, since he was able to just up and leave his entire life to shack up with someone in another state. Doesn't seem like this guy has a steady career, but I bet he's full of almost plausible excuses as to why. He's a member of the everything is everyone else's fault club.